Greetings everyone, I'm Sophis, and today I've got a different build for you. Today we're going for the Storm Giant and a build that can be done for one. A while ago in this channel, I've made a video going over two mount-based builds. One that focused on the ability to have single unit stacks, and the ability to have extreme mobility in the campaign map. The build I'll showcase today is an upgrade to both, as it has been quite a few patch cycles since those builds were made, and there are better options now that the Giant Kings DLC is out. So without further ado, let me show you the faction setup. I call this race the Storm Riders, named after one of the builds from a past video. The form traits are Inner Lightning and Pegasus Mounts. The culture is feudal, with the aristocracy subculture. The society traits are experienced seafarers and gifted casters. This time I've made a giant queen who is a spellblade, trying out the two-handed weapon variant that giants get. I'm happy to report that it was a fairly effective ruler, being able to fight both from afar and up close. Being a storm giant, she has the capacity to stun enemies with her Hurl Lightning ability if you go down the single target path. I'll give more details once we get to the unit section, but suffice to say, she is a fairly powerful fighter, and I've picked the Duelist Ambition because she is a very effective hero killer. Now to the tome setup. Since we are playing a Storm Giant, our first tome is Tome of Evocation. From here we get a lot of good things to use in the campaign. Lightning Blades is good for empowering our melee infantry, which will be very strong, and the Lightning Focus helps our battle mages and support units, which will be quite effective to field as well. The Evoker is a ranged option that you get with this build, and it will be your early game unit to fulfill that role, as the archers from feudal culture do not get mounts. The other spells here are good: Fulmination for a combat spell and Lightning Torrent for a world map spell. Summon Lesser Storm Spirit can be useful, but I find the Call Militia spell to be more effective as far as cost-benefit goes and reinforcing our armies. But in a pinch, if you are far away from your cities, this will do. There isn't much else to say about this tome, it's just a very good all-rounder tome to start our build with. Next up, we have Tome of Discipline. The main reason for this is that due to the affinities that are required to unlock later tomes, I could not get the Tome of Scrying into this build. And so Discipline is a good alternative, having Focus Aim to help assist our ranged units in combat. Another interesting ability is Empowered Strike for our melee units, because they will have plenty of retaliation thanks to the setup of this build. So Empowered Strikes gets a lot of value from its ability to inflict stun on the enemies. Inner Mastery is simply a free, good buff for your units, giving more status resistance and improved healing in combat. Although, again, none of this is exactly a priority. Really, Focus Aim and Empowered Strikes are the abilities you are after in this setup. We open up Tier 2 with Tome of Blades. From here, we do want the Glade Runner. Since our racial archer unit does not get a mount, we need to source one from the tomes, and Glade Runner is the only archer from a tome that does get a mount. They aren't the most powerful archer unit, but they have good mobility and support thanks to being mounted. They will perform decently as damage dealers so long as you supply them with the enchantments that you will get later on. For starters, you won't get a lot of mileage out of their damage, but their tracker's markability is pretty decent, and they can help chip away at the health of the enemy. I'll go in more detail in the unit section, but all you need to know is they don't start off so strong, but they do get more power and utility as time goes on. Aspect of the Root is also a good ability to have, buffing your melee units that are your frontline, helping them stay in combat longer, and also gives more value to the cheap militia that you are able to summon. The rest in this tome is secondary, and you can leave for later to research as you see fit. Leaf Skin, for instance, is a minor race transformation that doesn't have any particular downsides and gives you small buffs. Things start fitting into place once you get to Tome of the Construct. Linked Minds is a minor race transformation that will enable a certain synergy among your troops. Although we aren't playing around with constructs this time around, we do want the combat spells, in particular Cascading Command Reposition and Cascading Command Defend. Cascading Command Reposition grants our units Hastened, which gives them an additional retaliation attack, as well as extra movement to reposition in the battlefield. But the important thing is a retaliation attack. We will have plenty of those in this build, and the enchantment from Tome of Discipline will make it more valuable. Cascading Command Defend is also useful, giving Watchful for our units, which does give another retaliation attack, but its buffs only really last one turn. It's better to use this in combat if you already attacked and you want to put your units in defense mode. But Cascading Command Reposition is the one you want to use if you are alpha striking your enemy, because the buff lasts 3 turns and it's easier to position all your units so that all of them benefit from it at once when you're on the attack than when you're on the defense. Compounding Defense is a good unit enchantment, but it can run expensive depending on what kind of unit you're fielding and your current economy. I would recommend leaving it for later, since it is a little expensive, and the buffs it gives you are small compared to all the rest. We open Tier 3 with Tome of Vigor. From here, the only thing we really want is Super Growth. This minor race transformation will do a lot for us. First off, we do get another retaliation attack, which we'll already be getting a buff to thanks to Tome of Discipline and Tome of the Construct. Our units will get more health, and more importantly, we will have a decreased number of units in formation. Pegasus mounts, as they are right now, already decrease the number of units in a formation. With Super Growth, that becomes 1. This way your mounted units become single unit stacks, and all that health basically represents a single unit, which gives you the benefit of having a large health pool for a unit that will not lose effectiveness as it decreases. Since we don't want anything else out of this tome, you can make use of this opportunity to research things that you missed out from earlier tomes and get everything in order. Next up we get to Tome of Amplification. From here we want Amplified Arrows, a buff that will give a little more damage and value to our Glade Runners. The benefit here is that through this they will start dealing chip damage to nearby units as they fire on their primary target, and inflicting Sundered Resistance is also a good debuff. Resonance Field is a good special province improvement, giving us mana and, more importantly, casting points for both combat and the world map, which is very nice to have, especially as a feudal culture and as a storm giant, as you'll often want to place your rune spells and you will want to call militia even if they aren't flying to protect your territories as they are attacked when your main armies are away. The rest here is up to you. I quite like Chain Lightning as a combat spell, and the Amplification Pylon is a good summon for increasing the effectiveness of said combat spell. Here we have Astral Blood, yet another minor race transformation, which gives us a benefit without taking away anything, so it's pretty much a free upgrade. At Tier 4 we get Tome of Prosperity. Since we are a feudal culture and we will be growing quite a few cities, Tome of Prosperity is very good, as it will turn all that food production into gold. Shrine of Prosperity starts that as soon as you pick the tome, as it does provide more food to farms and foresters and turns 10% of your income into gold, which will be quite a welcome upgrade to your economy. From here we want Garden of Affluence to increase our production of gold and mana, and on the combat side we do want Staves of Grace, especially due to the Cleansing Rain ability that it grants to our support units. Blessed Armors will be yet another upgrade to our frontline, giving Inner Grace and yet more resistance. Then we move on to Tome of the Stormborn. This one plays really nicely with our build, both thematically and mechanically, with the exception of one thing. Naga Transformation, even though it is featured in the tome, I do not recommend at all. Because if you do pick this will completely invalidate the power of you being a mounted race. Sure, it does give some benefits, but I highly recommend that you do not use it at all and ignore any chance to research it. I'm not saying it is bad, but it definitely changes everything. Aside from that, Bounty of the Sea is very good, as you will have cities with plenty of sea tile, and this will increase significantly what is already boosted by this build. Downpour is a good world spell, not only because it can nullify certain terrains like ashlands, but also due to the downpouring status, which will inflict wet on all enemy units. Since we will be dealing quite a bit of lightning damage, this helps our damage output a lot. Lightning Storm is a good combat enchantment to combine with Downpour, and the Stormport is a good city structure to boost your mana income, as Prosperity will be boosting our gold, and this will be a nice little boost since we will be running quite a few enchantments. We top this build off with Tome of the Goddess of Nature, the sole reason for it being the Force of Nature enchantment. This enchantment grants plus 20% critical hit chance and blight damage on attacks, and the interesting thing here is what it affects. It very explicitly affects cavalry, which if you are playing this correctly will be most if not all of your army. Therefore, of course it will run expensive as an enchantment, but it will also buff significantly all of your forces. Now let me talk very briefly about the campaign map. As a feudal culture, you will have a lot of growth, and you will have the capacity to establish cities very fast. Thanks to most of your race being flying, you'll be able to scout around terrain very easily and find points of interest to found your cities. This combined with feudal culture does allow for quite a bit of growth, as a lot of the special provinces that you will get in this build do benefit from farmsteads and foresters. Try to establish as many cities as you can, and if possible try to make them coastal, as they do get quite a lot of benefit due to the Storm Giant leader, as well as everything else in this tome. However, if you are a bit landlocked, you still get some synergy due to the Storm Runestell of your Giant Ruler, since it will add rivers to provinces, and so a lot of provinces in your territory will get the buffs from it. It's worth noting that the Storm Runestell costs about 5 mana in upkeep, but each province will provide quite a bit of mana, and since a Runestell can affect multiple provinces, you will get a payback on that investment. So terraform away as much as you want. Coastal provinces in particular will also get a lot of benefit. Not so much in the city, for instance, as I did not build the Seafarers Guild, but over here in this city, which is mostly coastal, you can see just how much I get from a fish farm tile. Even though it is giving mostly food, it is also giving a lot of production, draft, gold, and mana. This will result in fast-growing cities that have a lot of resources. And you can see that even in a landlocked city, I still get quite a bit of benefits thanks to having a river running through the province. Now onto the units. Since we are an aristocracy feudal culture, the defender will be our bread and butter. This is due to the fact that once they hit legend rank, they do get promoted to Liege Guard. So if you run around with a lot of them in the early game, they will become a more powerful unit as soon as you've unlocked recruitment for Liege Guard in any of your cities. As you can see here, they are benefiting from a lot of enchantments, as well as minor race transformations, which raise their value quite a bit. Thanks to the feudal rework, a lot of units in the feudal roster have the chance to be mounted, but more particularly the units in the aristocracy subculture. The Bannerman, for instance, being your go-to support unit, will be mounted and will have a lot of mobility. Of course, they will also get all the benefits such as the Cleansing Ring ability and all the minor race transformations, as well as some of the damage increasing enchantments. This does add quite a bit of value to them, and I am using them even now later into the campaign. The Aspirant Knight, which also gets promoted once it hits legend rank, will be your most mobile unit. Since you are a mounted race, most of your units will have 40 movement, but units like the Aspirant Knight, which already were cavalry, still get a slight edge, having 48 movement instead of the 40. It doesn't make all that much difference, but it can make a difference if you want reinforcements fast. As you can see, it benefits from the same enchantments as the Defender, as well as the Liege Guard. And thanks to the fact that it becomes a single model unit, will make it quite hardy in the battlefield. The Evoker is a fair alternative to your ranged units, You can of course use them and they innately have some AoE to their skill set, but it doesn't get as buffed as a Glade Guard does. The Glade Runner is the one that scales better as far as your ranged units go. Now that I hit the cap of this build, they do get quite a bit of a boost, thanks to being able to have their own AoE innate to their bow attack, and the fact that they do get a boost to critical hit, as well as extra damage in their shot. The Liege Guard, as I mentioned, is the upgrade to your defenders and is exclusive to the aristocracy. They are very good at what they do thanks to their Sworn Bones ability. This enables your heroes to be in the front line and have a backup health bar, as the Liege Guard will absorb all their damage for them. Aspect of the Root makes that ability even more useful, as they are able to heal themselves if they took too much damage for your heroes. All in all, they are a solid frontline and likely to be the most numerous of your units on the battlefield, holding the line and protecting your important units. As I briefly mentioned before, your ruler will be an excellent hero killer. Thanks to being a Spellblade and a Storm Giant at that, she excels in disabling problematic priority targets thanks to Stunning Lightning. This ability, which does have a very reasonable cooldown and range to it, is capable of stunning a lot of enemies unless they have a lot of resistance, which is still helped thanks to the spell penetration ability that you get as a Spellblade. This class is very good for Storm Giant, as it does provide you with another lightning ability, which can be your AoE dealer while her lightning becomes your single target attack. Going down this line, it allows you to pick Melee Mage, which lets you use any of these abilities even if you are engaged in the front line. More interestingly, as you go down this line, you eventually get to Opening Strikes, which gives you extra damage the more the enemy is close to full health, and Go for the Kill, which increases it further for a turn. This, combined with the Duelist Ambition, lets you deal further damage against heroes. And depending on the magic materials you are able to secure, you could even add on the Hero Slayer enchantment to your ruler's weapon, making her a death sentence against any heroes in the enemy army. Since heroes can be some of the most annoying enemies to deal with, thanks to the variety of powers and abilities that they possess, combined with items as well as their large health pool, make your giant ruler very good for any army she is leading, as she can just get into battle, deal with priority targets, and let your army deal with the rest. As far as heroes go, you can go for anything you fancy. Even a squishy mage will be very good thanks to the Liege Guard protecting their health bar. So to wrap things up, this faction excels at a couple of things. It has a lot of mobility, enabling fast reinforcement. It is capable of scouting and founding cities, then growing them at a good pace, and on the battlefield, they have a solid front line that can support powerful units such as your heroes and have some range to back them up. Thanks to all the melee buffs, your front line is able to retaliate and possibly stun your enemy and can hold the line for quite a while. The Giant Queen is a very good hero hunter, capable of taking down priority targets and slaying them with ease, and has some very solid crowd control thanks to the low cooldown ability she has to stun enemies. It is also a faction that prefers coastal maps, as cities that you found in the coastline will grow faster than most and will have a lot of the basic resources required for it to grow a lot and be able to produce all the units you may want. It was quite simple and enjoyable to play, and I hope that you also have fun trying it out and playing it in the new update. That's all I have for you today. I hope you're having a good day, and see you in the next one.